We're here today for a very special evening show about matters of the mind. The COVID-19 pandemic has affected each of us differently. Uh, we were used to dealing with stress and anxiety way before pandemic, and sort of there used to be normal responses to perceived threats. But the uncertainty that coronavirus has induced on us has forced us to go through so much more than what we were used to, right? Uh, many of us are very blessed in our lives and have done a commendable job at navigating this pandemic. But there are some of us among us, people who have lost their jobs, people who have lost their loved ones to this deadly virus, and and imagine what life is like for them. Imagine what it is to get a negative test of COVID-19 and the stress and anxiety that you experience in those 24 hours when you're just waiting for your test results, basically. Uh, I'm one of the founders of DocVita, and if you are in my position and you see people overcoming their problems, you see people responding to treatments, responding to therapy, and even if it's a little bit of progress, even if it's only for a small period of time, the happiness that I feel inside is indescribable. And and one thing is certain that in these times, people need to start looking at mental health the same way they look at physical health. And the funny story is, when you ask people if they would recommend a friend who's going through troubled times, in need to seek some mental health help, they almost always say that, oh, of course, we would recommend them to see a therapist, we would recommend them to see a doctor or talk to a friend. But when asked about themselves, that if you are in a problem, would you really go see a therapist? And and almost always they get defensive, and and they say no. And this is something that we want to solve here. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very excited about this. It's going to be fun, and I'm sure that our speaker today is going to leave you wanting to learn more. Please welcome a renowned psychologist and an expressive arts-based therapist. She's conducted many workshops in schools and companies on mental health. And she has a slightly different take on mental health and slightly different take on art therapy that I think you all will enjoy. So please welcome Shatarupa Shato Chakraborty to the show.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, everyone.
Uh,
Thank you. Mo.
yeah, hey, Shatarupa or Shato, like that's the
Okay,
right
yeah,
way. Yeah.
yeah.
So hi, Shato. Very nice to have you here. Very exciting. Thank you so much for taking time out of a busy schedule to sort of educate our readers about this. I know I did like a small introduction of you, but if there's something that I've left out, I would sort of like you to just take a minute to introduce yourself to our audience and just tell who you are.
Yes, of course. So yeah, I think I you've introduced me correctly. I am a counseling psychologist, and I am an expressive arts-based therapist.
Yeah.
So, what does expressive arts-based therapy mean? It's a huge term, but essentially, it means we use artistic mediums within our work, within our therapeutic setting, to get the same goals in a
Got it.
better way, right? So we
Got it.
use music therapy, we use dance, we use art. This is like my art journal that I practice
Wow,
myself.
that's like amazing. How many pages are in there? Is it
Oh, this
like a hundred
is,
pages? Like,
I'm
wow.
guessing so, but this is
Yeah,
like
that's
one of
crazy.
them. So I almost do it every day.
That's
So
amazing.
yeah, so basically, my work relies on the philosophy or the concept that art is innate. Everyone
Yeah.
has art within them. If it's music, if it is drawing, or just listening, or just dancing, or whatever it may be, we are all artistic. We don't have to be great at. We don't have to be A.R. Rahman to, sing or like make music. And that's it. That's pretty much it. And how it can be healing, how creativity um, can be vital to our life as well. So just to
I
heal,
completely
problem
agree.
solve, insightful, yeah, all of
I
that.
completely agree. I mean, sort of, this also, when you described art and when you showed your art journal, it took me back to my school days when I used to be in maybe standard 4 or 5. I used to take my this horizontal landscape drawing file with my coloring boxes. We used to have a different box for our colors and different box for a regular pencil box. And sort of,
Yeah.
they that excitement in opening that box and sort of, bringing out the colors to paint something out of your imagination, right?
Yeah.
And sort of, and that whole exercise almost, like in retrospect, feels like therapy, right? Felt like sort of
Yeah.
uh,
Mhm.
that undivided attention and that focus in that moment of time was like amazing. I think sort of, I think if you are
Yeah.
someone who does art journaling every day, it must, like, promote you to be a little bit more mindful, a little bit more, like, conscious
Right.
of what's going on around you. So definitely that, I think, sort of could be really interesting. So sort of, I think you see clients from different walks of life every now and then,
Mhm.
right? And uh, and I know, because we also work with you, you're very, like, proficient at delivering talk therapy as well as sort of art based therapy, right? So how do you,
Yeah.
like, strike so how do you sort of distinguish between the importance of two, and sort of, do they go hand in hand, or are they sort of very separate from each other?
Oh, no, no. They definitely go hand in hand. Now,
Okay.
see, it depends on the clients I'm with as well. I work with a lot of clients who don't have language. For example, autistic kids. There are clients who have cognitive disabilities. They really don't have language, Hindi, English, nothing. Right? So with them, I have to work with art. Then there are clients who can speak, yet this is an additional dimension. So we make art, we spend time making art, and then we talk
Got it.
about it, we explain, so we verbalize. And I want to add something about art, that art does not have a huge adaptive ability, right? Like if a bear is
Mhm.
attacking you, you cannot draw and like survive,
Yeah.
right?
I
So
hope not. I mean, like,
yeah, you know,
yeah.
just like sing to them or anything. So
Yeah.
art is not that much about survival. It's a lot about
Okay.
thriving, like living a
Got it.
good life, right? And this is
Okay.
something that
Yeah.
we actively try to do in therapy, because most people who come to therapy, they are constantly, what is stress? Stress is essentially a fight or flight response, right? So it's almost like it's a huge massive life or death situation, and you have to like judge.
Yeah.
So if you're anxious, you almost assume that something is going to go so wrong that you might die, right? That is what
Correct.
anxiety in biological sense means, right?
Correct.
Uh, so art takes you away from that. Art takes you ke itna stress nahi hai. We can
Okay.
come
Got it.
and play, we can relax, and it helps you relax and gives you purpose to relax as well. So
Makes
moving from
sense.
survive to thrive,
I
right?
think sort of, I think you've described something sort of very beautifully. If I understand this correctly, I think art is an outlet to your emotion,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
sort of when you creatively are involved in something, you have an outlet to a lot of your emotions which you otherwise don't get, which
Yeah.
otherwise come out in different forms. I think some people sort of like to run, some people like to do kickboxing, and like, people have different passions, sort of just like let out
Mhm.
that emotional energy, right?
Right.
So is it true to say that, like, art based therapy videos are like you're sitting with a client and you guys are drawing something, you guys are singing, does that sort of bring out that emotional, like, pent up emotions that people were otherwise not able to bring out? Is that the right way to say it?
Yes, yes. So this is it's called sublimation, what you just
Okay.
described. So
Okay.
sublimation is essentially I have some, so for example, I have a lot of aggression, and then I sublimate it through playing basketball or something, right?
Okay.
So sublimation is part of art therapy.
Okay.
This is a way that we use art therapy, but there are other techniques as well. So
Okay.
sometimes we use art therapy for projection, sometimes to insight building, focus, and a lot of other therapeutic goals. Sublimation is
Got it.
part of that therapeutic goal. Yeah.
Got it. So at this moment in time, I think I would like to take, like, a little bit of a step back and sort of,
Mm-hmm.
like, just focus on the fundamentals, because this is like something which we do, like, every day in a company as well. Focus
Yeah.
on fundamentals. So fundamentally, when there is someone out there, and I'm sure many of us are there at this moment of time, who are going through a lot of stress, going through a lot of anxiety, right?
Mm-hmm.
So some of them can afford therapy very easily. Some of
Mm-hmm.
them cannot afford therapy very easily, right? and
Yeah.
uh, and a lot of people, for them, their friends is their first point of contact, right? So if
Mm-hmm.
I am in a position like that, as a person, basically, right? So what would you recommend I do? Like, how do I, because I know, I think I know too much about this industry. So I can safely say that, your friends might not give you the right kind of advice, or like they might not be like experts at what you're trying to ask them. But if people come to you, sort of, how is that different from going to a friend? Like,
Right.
and what role can friends play, like, in people's life? Because people will go through stress and anxiety every now and then, and every time sort of seeking help of a therapist is not possible. So yeah.
Right. Okay. So, number one, uh, therapists don't give advice. All right. So, we
Okay,
only we don't give advice because again, everyone leads their own lives. They have their own value systems, their own belief
got it.
systems. So, if we are giving advice, we obviously come from our own life experiences, and that's not healthy, right? And that
That's amazing,
most,
actually. Sort of, that's amazing,
yeah,
because because a lot of people have this perception that uh, people get gyan in therapy, but that's
no,
like
no, we
not true
don't
at
do
all.
that. No.
That's not true at all, right?
you,
Oh,
you may get gyan about psychology, you may get gyan about human nature and the science of the human sciences, but I won't
hmm.
give you gyan as to how to live your life.
Got it.
uh, I
Makes
will
sense.
support you and I will give you that space to come to your own conclusions, think it through, talk it through, make art about it, however you want to get to that. And I will
Got it.
support you to live your own decisions authentically, live your own values authentically, and
Got it.
what's healthy for you. So, actually, give you that space, give you that support to build that for yourself. Because at the end of the day, I want you to be able to do those things without me as well, right? So
Got
I
it.
basically help. I give you the tools. I
It's
don't
so
tell
powerful,
you.
right? It's so
Yeah.
powerful. I mean, like, sitting in your chair, I think I almost feel a little jealous of you. I mean, it's so good to be able to give people not the advice, and it's not
Mhm.
easy also, but give them the right framework to think about problems, and the right, maybe
Right.
asking them the right questions. Is that how therapy really works?
Yeah.
Sort of
Yes.
like
Yes. Yes.
asking them the right questions, and sort of like helping them probe a little bit deeper into their emotions. Correct. Yeah.
Exactly.
Got it.
Exactly. And something that you asked, like how can friends
Correct.
help?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, so active listening. So which is a very, very core part of being a therapist, that we very, very actively listen. And there are two types of listening. There's passive listening. There's active listening. So passive listening is how to bowl. I'm listening while I do
Okay.
something else. Okay, I'm hearing you. But
Okay.
active listening, I'm listening with my entire body. I am
Okay.
actually empathizing with your situation.
Got it.
I'm not listening to you to give you, okay, do this, right? I'm listening
Got
to
it.
you so that you can process your experience, you can understand your own experience, and have me as your mirror to actually determine what to do and what not to do. So
Got it.
I'm not giving you a solution ready made. You have to. This is why therapy is a little bit of work as well. ऐसा नहीं
Yeah.
है
Yeah.
कि आके
Of
बस you're
course.
chilling. Yeah.
No, no,
So you have
it's
to
a lot
give
of
me
work.
that.
I know and I understand it completely. I think I have spoken to many therapists that we have on DocVita at this moment, and
Mhm.
one of the constant thing that I've learned, I think one of very senior therapists, someone explained me, Ken Mole, when I'm in a 1 hour session with a client, I my I have to keep my eyes open. I have to observe so much, and it's so exhausting that I need
Mhm.
a minimum gap. I think sort of I
Yeah,
think you guys
you
need
have
a gap between sessions, because it's so
sessions from
stressful
our
for you, like
side. Mhm.
to do sort of. It's also sort of things me, because it's a very stressful job to have. I think sort of being a therapist
Mhm.
is in
Yeah.
itself very stressful. Like, so one, at what time did you decide that you want to take up the job, like the job of a therapist? At what point did it start to feel so meaningful? I think you might derive
Mhm.
some of your energy by people getting better, like
Mhm.
in some ways that we do as well here at DocVita. But
Yeah.
sort of, at what point did you decide that this is what you want to do, and at what
Mhm.
point did you sort of like realize, oh yes, I love what I'm doing and I want to keep doing this? So
Um, so I'll be very honest. So I wanted to do something with psychology, music, and philosophy when I was in class 9. Like
Okay.
I was very broadly interested in these three things, and I just wanted to do something. I did not think I would be a good therapist or anything, because of course I'm a child. I'm not sorted in my head myself.
Got
Uh,
it.
I didn't think I would be a therapist. I think for the longest time I thought I'll just be somewhere in research or something
Okay.
like that. But I think when I went for masters, that's when I started gaining more confidence that okay, no, this is something I can do. I can be a good
Got it.
therapist, and it's such a practical work. Like research is more theoretical, and I have to sit around with
Exactly.
it for a very very long time, which I love. I still love research, but I think actually working with people gives me a lot more
Got it.
joy, right?
Got
And
it.
it's so
No,
active, it's
undoubtedly.
so out there. And yeah, I
Undoubtedly.
think class 9 may I kind of decided, and then I just followed that path, and yeah, I'm here now. I'm doing exactly that. I'm
Yeah.
using music, I'm using philosophy, I'm using psychology.
So
So I love it.
it's like a perfect marriage of like passion and sort of being
Absolutely,
sort of like
absolutely.
it's sort of like so you actually mentioned empathy with friends actually sort of I think friends need to be a little bit more empathetic than they already are with their friends when they're
Yeah.
going through problems and sort of help them through any difficult times that they're currently going through. But
Mhm.
as I think family also has a big role to play. I think sort of
Mhm.
I hear a lot of my friends complaining all the time that our families don't understand us. I mean, like especially when
Mhm.
their parents don't understand us, right?
Yeah.
And sort of I sort of like a couple of my friends have sort of I had a very deep discussion where I asked them, "Are you really honest with your family? Does your family even know who
Mhm.
you are? Right? Because you're living so far
Mhm.
off from the family at this moment. It feels like families are not communicating enough with each other or something like that, right? And
Right,
I'm sure
right,
that
right.
you must have clients like this who are very distant from the family, and the family I think forms the strongest pillar of support in these times, right?
Mhm.
So what advice do you have for people who are maybe not with their families, or maybe who are with their families but who don't like have that strong connection? How can they strengthen the bond and like
Yeah.
create that support structure for them?
So, okay, let me just also recognize that sometimes families are not that great support systems for some people.
Okay.
For
Okay.
some people, of course, and if they are, that's brilliant. But for some people, it is a place of trauma, and it's
Mhm.
okay. I see you and I recognize you, and it's okay if you don't want to build. Because you know what, this is something very common, right? Like if you don't have a good relationship with your parents, you start to think you're a bad person, and uh, and that's not true. Like sometimes it is, like sometimes it is not a healthy relationship, and if you want to keep maintain a safe distance from them, it's okay. It's not
Got it.
like it's
It's
not
not
a
a bad thing.
judgment on, yeah, it's not a judgment
Okay.
on your
Got it.
character. Now
Got it.
if you are like, if you think your parents are someone who are open to things and you can share certain things,
Got it.
start small, start with certain, say, hobbies, right? So say play games with them. While playing games with them, you can talk to them about the stuff that's happening around you. um,
Got it.
Maybe watch a movie together, maybe make art together. Just I think just like on Zoom, play some music and just making art and talking about what's happening, or
Got
discuss
it.
a book, discuss a movie. So
Definitely.
start small, because see, again, I'm using the words like movies and art because they are representations of who we are, right? So if I'm watching a show, so for example, there's this show that I really loved recently called Please Like Me, and
Okay.
uh, and I've been talking about it. So and it and I liked it because a lot of the characters are relatable, or a lot of the things that are happening are relatable. So, and they become segue to talk to my family about things that are happening in my
Oh
life
yeah.
as well.
So shows that you watch together, not necessarily at the
Yeah,
same time, but like you can talk about them. I think that's
right. And
brilliant, right? I mean, like,
yeah, and through that character कि इस character के साथ ऐसा हुआ है, मेरे साथ भी ऐसा हुआ है. So it becomes
got it.
more, give it a segue almost, like I'm not abnormal, because this is also a fear that we all go through, right? Like when we try to talk to our parents about certain things that we've done, and this is how generations work. It's not like it's
Mm,
just with you and your family. It's just how things work. Your family will come from an
correct.
older conservative ideas, and you will be more likely more liberal than them.
Yeah.
Generally, I'm not saying always, but like the general
Got it.
pattern. So
Got
it
it.
is a transitory phase, and there will be conflict, and there will be confusion, and there will be doubt. But it's
Mhm.
not something that cannot be met completely. So you
Got it.
have to start small. You have to start communicating,
Got
and
it.
it needs to be done very
Uh,
consistently.
Got it. So obviously, sort of like I think doing something exciting with your family and finding a common ground could
Mm,
be very exciting for many people to do.
yeah.
And it sort of could work wonders. I'm definitely going to take up the suggestion of watching the same shows because
Yeah.
recently my mom and I both of us watched this Emily in Paris, a show on Netflix,
Uh-huh.
and sort of
Oh,
I actually sort of could completely relate to bonding over certain scenes in the movie and some things in the movie.
yeah,
So
absolutely. Yeah.
so definitely, which sort of also brings to me sort of another thing, which is like very prevalent at this moment, called like social media addiction and like life on
Mhm.
social media, and sort of uh, and a lot of people say that a lot of social media generates a lot of anxiety, and that's one of the reasons I think Instagram also turned off the number of likes feature uh,
Mm.
below the photographs, because people were very anxious about how many people liked my picture, how many people commented my picture, and that sort of plays a very huge role in the back of your mind, right? So what advice do you give to people who are into that I would say that circle, or into that loop of
Mhm.
like getting validation from social media? Does it indicate something deeper within them? uh,
Um, I think it's everyone right now, honestly.
okay.
Like, even if you
Okay.
have 500 followers, you check if you have 30 likes or not. And if you have
Okay.
50,000 followers, you check if you have like whatever,
Got it.
like likes or not. I
Got it.
think it's with everyone. And um, see, I think we are in a very tricky space right now because I
Got it.
cannot just uh, ask people to change because the the apps are built that way. The apps, like if you watch Social Dilemma or just know about what's happening, they, even if I recently, like it's been like 3 weeks that I've deactivated Facebook because I just can't, right? Like, so it the apps work that way, that they keep pulling on your attention. They
Attention.
really, yeah, they just really push themselves very effectively, right?
Got it.
So I really don't blame you if you have like if you have become a bit addicted. What you can do is start digital detoxing, and that's
Okay.
something that I do as often as I can. I say on Saturdays I just don't use my phone, or
Okay.
so start digital detoxing. It's very important, and and also I think genuinely, like, ask for structural changes as well, like not just psychologically, but like the apps need to change how they're working, how they're functioning is
Yeah.
not healthy. I don't think it should be legal also. But that's another thing.
Yeah.
But what you
Yeah.
can do is digitally detox, and also of course this underlying foundation, like have this foundation these numbers really do not determine your worth. They
Makes
are,
sense.
use this like as a, okay, it's a fun thing, I put some pictures, I like to put some pictures, people see it, it's nice to talk to them because they saw this picture. But underlying philosophy of why you did this, and if I get whatever 75,000 likes, does that mean I'm a good person and I'm a good artist? No, that doesn't mean that's the thing. So
No, very right.
yeah, make that association.
We are very right. I
Exactly.
think overindulgence in kind of sort of anything has been sort of presented in different cultures in different forms, and like has been sort
Mhm.
of has had a little bit of negative reinforcement from like
Mhm.
just in general, uh, going by common wisdom. But very interestingly, which brings me to another point about habits. I think all of us have a lot of different kind of habits in our everyday life, as a person, uh, as an employee, as a boss, like uh, and sort of just collaborating in a team as well as a teammate. So all of us have different habits
Mhm.
that we constantly, sometimes consciously realize, sometimes consciously don't realize, right? And if
Right.
there's one example that a lot of people give is about fitness. A lot of people see that I want to develop a habit of running every day. I want to develop a habit of doing 50 push-ups every day, right? That's why I
Mhm.
think 100 days push-up challenge and all these things come about and sort of excite people. because
Mm-hmm.
they actually help people form habits, like around them. So what do you have to sort of say to our audience about habits? How can they sort of get into good habits? Because as an expert on the mind, a lot of people say that it takes 21 days. A lot of people says it takes longer. It's still not
Mm-hmm.
permanent. So there's a lot of confusion, a lot of gray area there. What do you say about
Yeah,
habits? What do you say to these people, and how can they have positive and negative reinforcements to develop these habits?
true. Okay, so something that you touched upon is amazing. That we all we are always under some habits, or we are practicing some habits or the other, whether we're conscious or we're not. Which means
Got
we
it.
are constantly learning something. We may be on the journey of, like, for example, like the example of art journaling. I don't think it started off as a habit. I just started doing it, and then it just became a habit, right? So I did
Got
it
it.
for quite some time, and it just became a habit. And so be mindful of things that you're learning, right? Like, we
Okay.
are always learning something, so be mindful of things
Mm-hmm.
that you're learning. So even like bad habits like smoking, you might be
Mm-hmm.
smoking once a week, or like when you're in parties or whatever it is, and then slowly it starts to seep into your regular day to day. Be mindful of that when is it turning, like when is it switching into something, into, so you're learning something, that you're learning that it's okay to do it, right? There is a thought that comes to you when you're smoking every day. Be mindful of that, right?
Got it.
And being very mindful. So there is negative and positive. So when it comes to positive habits, right, like if you want to uh, actually build habits, so there are two ways that you can look at it. One is your short term self, one is your long term self. So have
Mm-hmm.
short term goals and long term goals. If I want this habit, say, like you said about fitness, so why do
Mm-hmm.
I want to be fit? Answer that question to yourself, right? Why do I want to be fit, and what is my long term goal? Okay, in, like, say, a year, or say
Okay.
2 years, so one of my friends actually said this, like, okay, it's not like I have to survive in a desert for 10 days without anything, but if I had
Yeah.
to, I should be able to, right?
That's why he's not okay to lose that fat.
Yeah, so no, so
Yeah.
he walks out and he stays fit, so that if he's stranded in a desert sometime at some point,
Okay.
uh
Okay.
he'll be able to survive without anything,
Got
right?
it.
So that is his motivation. Someone, like, one of my clients' motivation is, I want to be able to party for a month if I want to, right? Like,
Oh, okay.
right? So what
Okay.
is
Got
your
it.
motivation? Figure out what do you want to do, like why do you want to be fit. And sometimes it works that, okay, my friends are fit, this is why I'm wanting to be
Mm-hmm.
fit, this is why I want to be fit. But most days it doesn't. For वो friend
Got it.
wala motivation may not work that long. um
Got it.
until unless you guys are doing it together, like he or she actually gets you up and going, and you are doing this, so you have a buddy system.
Yeah.
Other than that, you have to start. Number one, long term goal. I want, have an imaginary hypothetical situation only, ke I want to be fit enough to do this, or climb Mount
Got
Everest,
it.
or go to the base camp, or whatever it is.
Got it.
um Even if you don't do it, have that. And then short term goals: what is achievable for me today, what is achievable for me tomorrow, and start slow and keep going at it. Yeah.
Got it. I think sort of very exciting that you sort of touched upon fitness, that you touched upon, like having a buddy to sort of motivate you. But I think an even more powerful emotion is why. If you can answer
Hmm.
why you're doing what you're doing, I think sort of that has that intrinsic motivation inside of you,
Yeah.
and makes you do wonders that you can't imagine that you could do. Uh,
Yeah, if you have a
so
very
yeah.
strong why, if you have a very strong why, the what becomes very easy.
Got it.
Right?
So
Yeah.
while we're on the
Mm.
subject of, like, habits, and we've spoken about, a couple of matters of the mind. We've touched upon, like, some very interesting interesting concepts. I want to actually talk about something that I've seen, like, in my everyday life, on very actively on Twitter. People have a lot of hate speech. People have a lot of anger towards thing,
Mm.
and people like to blame other people for something they did or didn't do, right? And this is like a very common thing that we see on Twitter every day, and it's like
Mm.
equivalent to that masala that people like to read, right? So, in fact,
Yeah.
social media, I feel like a lot of social media platforms just even prioritize this information to appear on top of a list. If you are somebody who likes or retweets this kind of material, right? So,
Yeah.
for those kind of audiences, I think sort of how do you inspire these people to one have a little bit change of perspective, or like be a little bit more mature, and what
Mm.
advice would you give to these people in their everyday lives, like just to sort of
Yeah.
start feeling a little differently, because they disseminate a lot of negative energy around them and just promote a lot of hate speech. And I think our country really needs that. I think people need to
Yeah.
come together, like, as one. So
Absolutely.
just in matters of the mind, I think a lot of stress will go away from our life if those things stop a little bit.
Absolutely. I completely agree. Again, I will really add that there is something wrong with Facebook, the way they run. So
Okay.
we really need to address this. Like
The way
it's
social media platforms rank content, I think a
just
lot of
the
people
way
are, right?
this is how they are running, right?
Okay. Okay.
They actually benefit from fake news. They actually benefit from these structures, and this is a problem. But
Mm-hmm.
also, uh, okay, so I will answer this question in two ways, two folds. So one is we are, I think something that I talked about, survival, right? So we are
Yeah.
addicted to fear, and this
Correct.
polarization that happens. So for
Mm-hmm.
example, if I'm a left wing, like if I'm left leaning, and if I see
Mm-hmm.
someone slightly right wing also, I imagine,
Okay.
oh, they don't want genocide. So directly there is this
Oh,
absolute black and
extreme,
white.
like
Yeah,
expression of extremes. So while
correct.
reading social media, our audience should be a little bit more mindful of what they consume and how to interpret it, right? Like not to
Absolutely.
imagine
So
extremes.
exactly. So it's not that black and white. Somebody may just want like a libertarian economic structure, and that is
Got it.
it. That's all the right wingness that they have. They may not be like anti any community for that matter,
Mm-hmm.
right? So this allowing that, so I think the number one, that people don't exist in polarities is, it's something
Got it.
that's very important, that we need to know that no, like just because somebody is liberal and left leaning does not mean they want to overthrow everything, every structure that has been there in our
Got it.
lives, and someone in the right wing is not looking for a genocide. So there are more
Got
people
it.
in the middle than we actually want to believe, because most people
Got
on
it.
Twitter are just screaming out are the ones in the extremes, right? So
Got it.
we have to believe that people are there in the middle, and there is communication that is possible, and there is middle ground, and at the end of the day we all want good things for each other and ourselves, right? So
Got it.
have that communication. I made a post about this just today itself, that
Okay.
how political correctness
Okay.
is uh, is affecting us, right? Like, so there is a constant fear. Like, even if
Yeah.
I say something negative about any politician, it's so
Mm-hmm.
scary. And if I say some,
Okay.
and on the other side, if I use the wrong pronoun for someone, even that is scary. Like, some Twitter mob may come at me saying, okay, whatever, like I'm
Mm-hmm.
transphobic or whatever. Like, there is, uh,
Okay.
so there is fear and anxiety on both parts, and this disallows, and this is the cancel culture, right? Okay, if you
Okay.
don't agree with me, I'm going to cancel you, right?
Oh, got
so
it.
so instead of cancel culture, we have to move towards a growth culture. Okay, okay, bro, this is, see, this is what you've
Okay.
said. I don't think this
Yeah.
is why it's problematic. Can we have a conversation about this? I'm ready to
Got it.
send you materials. I'm ready to send you whatever you need. So just being open to learning and open to discussing as well. I think we have to
Got
move
it.
from cancel culture to growth culture. Yeah.
I think sort of people, you're very right about, this, that people need to be a little bit more open, a
Mhm.
little bit more curious, and more committed to learning than arguing.
Yes.
I think sort of, I think once you start to learn more, you tend to argue less.
Correct,
So
correct.
so then you understand people's perspective. So I think sort of, definitely, we've touched upon sort of a lot of topics. I know that you don't have like a lot of time, also you may have other
Yeah.
commitments.
Mhm.
So so we plan to do an art therapy session as well
Sure.
within this. We can do this, but just before this, I think as I mentioned at the beginning of the call, also people have this apprehension of seeking help from others, and it's just not just about therapy in general. I think that emotion transcends across our life as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
When people are not ready to accept help. People
Mm.
innately think कि मैं सब कुछ खुद कर लूंगा. I can do this by myself. I can handle this. Oh, I've got this, right? And then they're afraid to ask others for help. And this is
Mm-hmm.
something, especially in entrepreneurship, a lot of our mentors, a lot of our, very active investors have tweeted, have told about this, that you should not be afraid to ask for help. And I think the same
Mm.
goes for mental health as well, that you should not be afraid to ask for help, right? That
Right.
stigma is slowly starting to go away, and we're seeing that people are coming out in the open, talking about it. In fact, there's one person I know who has very openly talked about therapy,
Mm-hmm.
from Doc Vita, basically, who has seek therapy, Doc Vita, and sort of they spoke about therapy in general in public and said, okay, like, I'm going to tell my friends and family about it. And there was, I knew that person told us that there was a lot of stigma that he faced, but still they went outside and sort of told this to sort of everybody else as well, right? So when people come to you for therapy, I'm sure sort of
Mm-hmm.
they usually approach therapy at when they're at the cliff about to fall. They don't sort of like
Mm-hmm.
come way before. So what advice do you have, like, to everyone who's watching this, who's going to watch this, because it's also going to be live on YouTube for a very long time as well. So people who watch this, how should they think about approaching mental health, and what stage is it? At what stage is it right to approach an expert like you and then take your help
Mm-hmm.
to do something that you want to do?
Uh, right. So, okay. So there is, I think something that you said is very correct, that you don't have to be this amount of crazy to come see a psychologist.
Correct.
Um, Even therapists, like even I, like during the beginning of the pandemic, even I started seeing a therapist because I also needed a space to just work through my what's going on, how am I perceiving the pandemic, and it is
Okay.
just your own space, right? It's
Got it.
just your own, that's it. Like, you know uh,
Yeah.
someone who is there to listen to you, find out what's best for you, and it's you. So it's just imagine that space, and you could want it and need it at any point, right? So
Got it.
absolutely, you can go to therapy whenever you want. Now,
Okay.
when it comes to say disorders and little serious issues, or say like actually thoda sa say trouble concentrating or trouble sleeping and stuff like that is happening, of
Mm-hmm.
course, please come see a therapist. Then the treatment would also be longer, and
Mm-hmm.
the structure will be different. But again, you can come to us at any point of time. So something
Got
that
it.
we follow, I'll just explain one little thing that we follow. It's called a
Mm.
biopsychosocial model. So there is
What is
biology,
biopsycho social?
biopsychosocial. Okay,
Okay.
so there is
Okay.
biology, which is your hormones, molecules, all of these working. There is psychology, which is your thought, your cognition, your perception, your sensation, and sociology, which is your environment. So all these three things play a role, right, in
Mm-hmm.
how you are, what you're saying, how you're behaving, all of this. Your
Mm-hmm.
environment, how you talk to your boss is not how you'll talk to your partner, right? So
Got
your all of these, you change based on your environment, you change based on your
got it.
biological settings. Now
Got it.
if you have a mental disorder because of your biology, if say everything in your environment is fine, everything in how you're thinking is fine, yet you are struggling, then you have to go see a psychiatrist, right? So they
Correct.
will give you medication because it's a biological thing.
Right.
But if you have been struggling for quite some time, it's best that you see a psychiatrist as well as a therapist, because they will help you reintegrate, right?
Correct.
So that's one thing. If you don't have any biological issue, it's if it's just psychosocial. So, for example, social relationship issues, job issues, whatever it is, and psychologically you feel distressed, then you come see a psychologist, and that's
Got it.
pretty much it. Yeah.
Got it. So if I understand this in the right frame of mindset, I think
Mhm.
in as a person, they have like a very active life around them, that they have, like family, and their relationship with their family can be good, bad, or whatever. They have must have
Mhm.
friends. Some are close friends, some are acquaintances, and they have their co-workers, and that there's a very big circle around them, and we keep interacting with all kinds of people. In fact,
Yeah.
now that we are more connected than ever before, people don't
Mhm.
have time to get in touch with themselves. And I think
Yes.
therapy is not something which after talking to you, I don't feel like therapy is something which people should do whenever there's a problem or as a one-off thing. I think
Yeah.
people can do therapy as a healthy person on an everyday basis, just to sort of be
Absolutely.
a little bit more mindful, develop that conscious, self-analysis. I think sort of getting in touch with their own self. What's the right word about it? I think how what do people?
Reflect,
Yeah,
self-awareness, mindfulness. Yeah.
correct. So what do people who do therapy even when they're not in a problem? What do they get extra that others don't? How can they excel? If somebody comes to you who has
Yeah.
no problem, and then what do you help them with? What do you do,
Mhm.
and that sort of empowers them to do something different? I'd love
Right.
to know that.
So, so yeah, I do see a lot of clients who come to me say, so there are three types of clients that I see. So one is like SOS when they need something has happened, then they
Okay,
just get an appointment. There is
got it.
one that like say I'll see every week because that's the structure, like
Hmm.
going through a treatment. Another is say I'll see once a week or once in 2 weeks or once a month, and they just
Got
come
it.
and sort of reflect upon that week or the month that they have gone through,
Oh,
and
interesting.
they just like sort of reflect on what all happened, and sometimes we just do some more creative work, so like that's where
Okay,
our therapy, so we'll just creative like make that space for play. Okay, okay,
got it.
you have, because all you've been doing all this while is this, so okay, let's just push the boundaries and do
Got
something
it.
new. So
Interesting.
again, therapy is a safe space, so imagine like what does safety mean to you, and that's it,
Got it.
right? It's a
Oh,
safe
awesome.
space. Your therapist will listen to you. It will, they will do what you want to do, and the thing is, it's what's it's basically your own. That's it. Like I cannot emphasize how much it's your space. Like
I can.
because
I
I
think people need their own space, especially in a culture, in the Indian
right,
culture, when a lot of people don't have a lot of personal space. I think it's the way our
correct.
society has sort of shaped itself in many years, very different from the Western culture. Obviously,
Mhm.
I'm not saying Western culture is perfect and Indian culture is not. I think every culture has
Yeah.
its own like sort of differences and sort of own benefits. But
Yeah.
but as an Indian culture, like where we don't have a lot of personal space, I can sort of feel the power already when you describe it to me,
Yeah.
it is so exciting to have, because as professionals we have a boss, or we do professional reviews month on month, sometimes week on week,
Mhm.
on how we are making progress in our professional life.
Correct.
I
Yeah.
think if somebody does therapy monthly or weekly, they can review progress of their personal life on a week on week or a
Absolutely.
month on month basis, and that is so powerful. I think that's the difference, that you
That's
make
it.
the same amount of progress in your personal life as much as you do in your professional
Correct.
life, and you end up living like a much happier and much fulfilling life in general. Did I
Right.
put it in the correct
Yes,
words?
I think you did it absolutely. Like that's it. Like
Okay,
you take account, you take stock of what's been going on, and you
got it,
allow yourself to feel, you allow yourself to express. Okay, it's true, right? Like sometimes you get sad during work and you
got it,
cannot cry there. And now you just have that space to laugh and cry and do whatever. And just just unbottle. You just unbottle
got it,
yourself completely and
got it,
be your authentic self. So you also
got it.
get to know yourself. Mm.
I think sort of very tremendous, very powerful. I think right now at one of the perfect notes to sort of like conclude the session, because if we sort of keep going on, I think we can keep going on for
Yeah.
hours and hours. This is a very short topic.
Yeah.
Should we do the sort of last activity that
Instead
you
of
planned for
doing,
us?
instead of doing,
Please,
let me just talk about it.
yeah,
And
please,
something
please
that
go on.
people can do, I think,
Yeah,
because we are running out of time as well. So
yeah,
I'll just
yeah,
show
yeah.
you what is this. This is my emotional wheel I did some time back. And emotional wheel is basically, so you see there are six parts, and we have, as human beings, we have seven basic emotions. So you can add. So there is happiness, sadness, anger, fear, surprise, shock, and jealousy. All right.
Okay,
So we all experience these emotions, and I think emotional wheel also sort of helps us understand that, if you felt sad or jealous today, it's okay, right? It's
Okay.
not a bad feeling that you should not
Yeah.
feel this, none of that. You accept all the emotions that you felt, and it allows you to understand what is going on and what you felt. And then after the emotional wheel, what I do is sort of find a song or an art or a poem or something that expresses what I want to feel now, like my goal emotion. So it allows me to sort of feel my feels, and then go like have a goal feeling so that I can direct my feelings as
Got it. I think sort of even this emotion is very powerful. I think all the art-based therapy activities are not just fun to do. It sort of helps you
well.
discover that side of you that you never really thought about consciously, and sort of
Right.
like makes you ponder over your own emotions. And I think I watched one of your videos with Suhani, where you guys went live and you did art therapy. And I think I would love for our audience to also go and check it out. I think your session starts at 2 hours 35 minutes or something.
Yeah,
Uh,
2:35.
yeah. So that I think in that session as well, what you brought about when you did that activity, when you gave just 60 seconds for somebody to bring out their emotion, that sort of helps people bring out whatever is on top of their head immediately into the pen and paper, and sort of like articulate their thought and do something in a limited amount of time. And that sort
Right.
of forces them to be honest, to be sort of a little bit
Yeah.
expressive about what's really going on inside their mind. So
Correct.
definitely, I think I'm pretty sure like our audience is also looking forward to more from you. Even at this point of time, I think we'd love to know more about art therapy. Maybe sometime later we can do another session dedicated to art therapy, where we can like ask our viewers to
Mhm.
also come on board. Maybe share their screen or whatever. Maybe send in their photos of art therapy, and then we can sort of help them decipher what they're feeling at this moment. And
Mhm.
I think would be very interesting exercise. It's not that personal, and it can be like a very
Yeah,
social
it can be
activity.
fun. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, I think thank you so much, Shatarupa or Shatar, for coming here and sort of like giving us your time today. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule. Also, I would
Thank
like to sort of
you.
thank our viewers for joining us. If you or like anyone you know is facing any kind of mental health issues, talk to your friends about it. Seek help if you think help is needed. With Talkvita, your sort of everything is very accessible. Our team is always here to help you. We promise complete anonymity in terms of therapy, in terms of psychiatric consultations as well. Right now, sort of in the current model, you just like drop in a WhatsApp text to us, and we just connect you to a therapist. We don't like ask for your names or anything, or email or whatever. Basically, you can just connect with the therapist on WhatsApp and talk to them. We did launch therapy in our own channel as well, but a lot of people felt like sort of they want a more accessible platform. So we are also on WhatsApp right now. A lot of our clients prefer Meet or Zoom calls as well. We are there as well. So we can actually sort of be wherever you want us to be. But that should not be a barrier for anybody to access mental health, I think, and sort of
Yeah.
seek help wherever they need to. And it is, and as you must have seen throughout this session as well, it is so powerful to just like ask the right questions to yourself. And it I think sort of it is even much more empowering if anybody who's like a professional guides you through navigating that whole set of questionnaire that can sort of just help you be a little bit more enlightened. And that's what sort of I think in basis everything in life is all about, right? Being more enlightened, being more aware, and like being more conscious of what you're doing. So thank you so
Mhm.
much, Shatarupa, for helping our audience understand this a little bit more,
Yeah.
helping me understand this more. And thank you for joining us today. Bye bye, everyone. Take care. Wish you all like a fantastic week ahead.
All right. Thank you, Anmol. Good night.
Good night.